If you're like me and you use gaming to break away from the repetitive cycle of 9 to 5 life, chances are you'll want to play something where you can lose all sense of responsibility and forget everything else. Here is a list of games that you can come home to and play to help you forget the tough day you've had in the office without it being ruined for you. This isn't some mad deep dive into the intricacies of each little gameplay element, more of a if you pick these games up, you won't be disappointed with what you get. Before we go on to number 5 as well, if you want to hit the like and subscribe, that would be great. Or if you have any other feedback on the video, please feel free to drop a comment. Now, kicking off at 5 is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. What makes this game a great open world? Well, it's got to be the scale and ambition. Set in ancient Greece during the Peloponnesian War, you're provided with an enormous playground where you can sail, run, walk, or ride across the entire map. Or maybe not ride, I don't actually think the horses can swim in the game. Honestly though, just look at the size of it.
That's what she said.
To coincide with the large map, Ubisoft filled it with tons of different things to do. There are the main quests, which focus on Alexios or Cassandra, depending on who you choose. This on its own will take you over 45 hours to complete. There is also a branch-off storyline to this that involves the cultists, which I'd highly recommend checking out. There are camps to be destroyed, forts to clear out, caves to explore, shipwrecks to dive, tombs to raid, the list goes on, and they're all there to be explored at your own pace. It looks beautiful as well. Ubisoft created a unique version of the Greek mainland and its surrounding islands. There's towering statues, impressive buildings, and diverse landscapes. And not only does it look good on land, but it also looks good at sea too. Out on the open ocean, there are loads of different ships to attack and gain loot from. The level of customization that you have over your own ship makes you want to avoid fast travel and instead sail around listening to some sea shanties. There are negative reviews out there about this game, that it's fallen short and that some textures aren't any good, blah 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 blah. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a game that you can throw so many hours into. It doesn't force you to do anything you don't want to. You can go climb walls, explore a city, fight some guards, sail at sea. It's really your choice. You don't have to do things in a certain order in order to advance. The level of immersion that you want to get from the game is entirely decided by you, and with so much to do, you'll soon forget that your manager needed that report on Friday and that today is Sunday. Next up at 4 is Days Gone. If you want a great way to relax after a tough day at work, you can try mowing down hordes of zombies in this post-apocalyptic world. Sure, there's the Dead Rising and Dead Island series. Good games, but I always got more of an arcade feeling from them. Days Gone feels like a more fleshed out game. Don't get me wrong, it's not a 10 out of 10 blockbuster, but it's not meant to be. It's a unique take on an already unique genre. But what makes it something you can get lost in? Well, starting out, there's the loneliness. I've recently just finished the game, and at the start, you feel very isolated in that radio tower. But not only isolation, you also feel way out of your depth. With limited ammo and always a few hits from death, you kind of feel in it. The zombies are relentless. I'd be riding away trying to gather myself after a failed attempt at a NATO checkpoint. I'd turn around and there'd be zombies still following me. It definitely keeps you on your toes. It's got a great on-the-move style crafting system, which doesn't bring you out of the game via a start button, and instead of just running around on foot or via some standard car, a lot has been put into the bike. With plenty of mechanical and visual upgrades, you can end up getting a really personalized version of it that suits your style of play. The hordes were a blast to try and kill. They feel like an actual challenge. You can spend ages prepping for them. You can get weapons, ammo, health kits, whatever you need. You can plan out a route. You'd actually start it, and at least for me, it would just go the opposite of how I planned out. But it was still so much fun. Now, as I've just said, this is a game about killing hordes of zombies, and it's got a good story to go with it. But just look at the review on screen. Within the first sentence, from the moment I heard about Days Gone, I wondered about its reason for existing. I mean, what a way to put a game down before it's even came out. It's a great game, one you won't be disappointed with. You get to ride around on a motorcycle and shoot down zombies. It makes me happy, and going into work the next day just that little bit easier. Coming in at number 3 is Ghost of Tsushima. Playing as a samurai from 1274 who gradually turns into the most feared man on the entire island by obliterating a Mongol army single-handedly sounds like a nice way to de-stress from acting like you actually care that Carol had a nice weekend. The visuals in Ghost draw you in like there's no tomorrow. It looks amazing from every angle on the map. Here's the moment that most people realize how good of a game it's going to be. The combat feels really pure. It's simple but super effective. I swear when you nail a standoff and Jin is looking off in the distance while holding a finishing stance, you'll feel that 0.1% samurai in you awaken. Being surrounded by a group of enemies gives off Kill Bill vibes. But if you've got the combat down, the satisfaction from dropping all of them is
beautiful.
Shout out to the 7 jewels, they were peak samurai gameplay. Sucker Punch really captured the essence of the time, feeling like everything around you is very rigid and upheld in tradition. Jin is the one person who's willing to adapt in order to save his homeland. There are lots of side stories to keep you invested as well. Quick tip, avoid Norio's stories as they are really boring. Also, it looks like Po from Kung Fu Panda. I don't know why, I can see it. This game draws a lot of comparisons to Assassin's Creed, which fair enough, it has similar aspects. But if you look at Ubisoft now, their next game is going to be set in ancient Japan, and we all know how that's going. Anyway, this game does take a pretty serious approach to the story, but that fits in with what it's trying to achieve. Samurai were pretty serious guys from the small knowledge that I have, but the visuals and the combat combined with the story means you can spend endless amounts of time on Tsushima becoming the ghost. It'll be like Carol never existed. Taking second is Far Cry or the Far Cry series. If you're looking for a series or game where you can spend endless amounts of time blowing up, killing, driving, flying, just to name a few, then the Far Cry series is the one. It's a great stress reliever. The characters are great at hooking you into the game. For example, Bass from Far Cry 3. I actually think that Danny from 6 was pretty good as well. There is always some form of oppression versus freedom aspect, and to be honest, it's a really interesting narrative to follow, and it's always tweaked from game to game, but not in a negative way. It always seems kind of fresh. The fact it's been going for 2 decades shows that Far Cry is doing something right to keep players hooked, and with such a long lifespan, they've covered almost all scenarios. So even if you didn't like Far Cry 4 as an example, it's still worth trying out 5. There is definitely one out there for you. The games are definitely built upon the ones before it, whether that's the story being crazier or the weapons being crazier. There's always some kind of advancement. If you're looking to get fully immersed in this one, then I'd recommend disabling the HUD and just taking a tour around the map of whichever Far Cry you're playing. Although maybe only do it for exploring, it might be worth keeping it on for the main stuff. The franchise has brought technical, innovative, and artistic characteristics that many games have since adopted, serving as a reference point for many future games. Honestly though, don't just take my word for it. Have a look on YouTube for some gameplay from each one, and then pick the one that piques your interest most and give it a go. You won't be disappointed.
Hey, you're finally awake.
In at one is Skyrim. I mean, it has to be on the list. If you want to take it back to where the bar was set for these types of games, you've only got to go to Skyrim. So what makes it so good that you may accidentally Kevin in the office instead of saying morning? First, it's the environment. It lets you explore endlessly. There isn't a limit on where you need to go first. Walking out of that cave, seeing the vastness of the world in front of you, it implores you to pick a direction and just go. If I can find the correct video, I'll pop it up on screen now. You can hear the game's magical atmosphere, just minus the guy smoking. Keeping the HUD simple, you favor the world in front of you instead of looking at mini-maps, cooldown timers, or level indicators. It's just a nice, smart, and tidy looking HUD that keeps you immersed with what you see in front of you, and with such a demanding environment, you'll be constantly scanning for threats, items, and different pathways, so a clunky looking HUD just wouldn't work. You can also get lost in the lore of this game. Pretty much everywhere you turn, there will be a book with history about the dwarves or Skyrim. Some will also help you level. There is loads of different religions and cultures in the game that you can dive into. The Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guilds are personal favorites, with tons of different spells, weapons, shields, and armor that you can collect. And you can even store those in your own house that you can buy. There isn't a shortage of things to do. It's the same with the quest, just endless hours of fun exploring different stories. Also, you get to kill dragons. I mean, that's pretty cool. A word on mods. I think that this helps the game with immersion. Sure, there are mods that are crazy, like Thomas the Tank Engine being in it. But there's also mods that can give you better immersion, whether that's a more detailed environment, better UI, more weapons and spells. The list is pretty much endless on this one. There's a lot more to dive into with Skyrim, but I'm keeping it brief, as exploring the game in your own way is the best way to do it. And before you know it, you'll be this guy. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it.